My father was always strict, but, as I thought, fair. He worked, fed the family, did not spoil, but also did not abandon. After his mother's death, he shut himself up, and a month later he brought Linda, a woman 22 years younger, with a fake smile and a look that made him feel like trash. She erased Mom's tracks, she removed the photo, sold her chair, took the throne in the house. My sister and I were getting distant. My father stopped calling for Christmas, accusing us of being negative for Linda. He said, "A new family is a new chapter," as if we were an old book that could be burned. When he got sick, I didn't know, he didn't answer, he disappeared. I found out about his death when he was already in hospice. At the funeral, Linda announced that everything, the house, the money, the bills, had gone to her in her will. My sister and I weren't in it. "This is the will of the deceased," she said, and I felt that we were dead to my father long before his end. I always considered my father to be a man of duty. Not the kind who hugs or says, "I'm proud of you," but the kind who pays for school, fixes the car, and stays silent when you bring AC. His love was in deeds, not in words. My sister Claire and I grew up under his gaze, which was more often condemned than praised. "You disappointed me" was a phrase I knew better than my reflection, but I accepted him like that. He was the father who kept the family afloat while Mom was our warmth. She baked pies, laughed, and stroked our hair. When she died, cancer took her away. In 6 months I was 18. Claire was 15. I waited for my father to break down, but he didn't cry. At the funeral, he stood like a statue and was silent. I thought it was his way of coping. I was wrong. A month later, he announced that he had met Linda. Claire and I exchanged glances at dinner when he said that, without emotion, as if he had ordered pizza. Linda was 22 years younger than him, with long nails covered with varnish and a smile that did not reach her eyes. She looked at us as if we were stains on a carpet that needed to be cleaned. I didn't want to judge. My father was single. He was 50. He deserved to be happy. Claire whispered, "She looks like she's selling something on TV." I chuckled, but told her to be quiet. We decided to be tolerant, but tolerance didn't help. Linda came into our house like a new director in an old movie. She began to rewrite everything for herself. The photos of Mom, the ones that hung in the living room, where she laughed with us on the beach, are gone. "They're ruining the interior," Linda said, hanging up the mirror. Mom's favorite chair, where she used to read books to us, was sold by my father. "It's old," he explained, although I could see Linda wincing as she got into it. Her perfume filled the house, her voice filled the conversations. She talked about a new stage, a fresh start. My father nodded, as if he had forgotten that he had us. I was in my freshman year of college. I lived in a dorm, but I came home on weekends. Claire, still a schoolgirl, lived with them and told them how Linda throws away her mother's things, her scarves, her cookbook, her earrings. "She wants Mom gone," Claire whispered on the phone, her voice trembling. We were moving away. My father stopped inviting us to family dinners. At Christmas, he said, "Linda and I are going on vacation. You can handle it." I was looking at the empty Christmas tree in my apartment and felt like something was breaking. Claire was crying, but I told her to hold on. He's just in love. But it wasn't love. It was a reboot. One day, he called and said, "You're having too much of a negative effect on Linda. It's hard for her to be with you." I was taken aback. We are your children." He sighed. "A new family is a new chapter. Please understand." I hung up, feeling my throat constrict. I became an orphan that day, even though my father was alive. He erased us like old files to make room for Linda. I was trying to keep in touch. He called, wrote, and offered to meet. He answered rarely, briefly, busy. After graduating from high school, Claire went to study and saw him even less often. We talked about him like a ghost. "Do you remember how he used to fix our bikes?" "Yes, and now he's fixing Linda's life." We laughed, but it was a bitter laugh. I have built my life, working in an office, a mortgage on a small apartment, friends who have become a family. Claire studied, worked part-time, dreamed of becoming a designer. We managed, but there was a hole inside where the father should be. Then he got sick. I found out by chance. My aunt, my mother's sister, mentioned that she had seen him out of shape. I called, but he didn't pick up the phone. He wrote, silence. Claire tried through Linda, but she replied, he needs peace. We didn't know what was wrong with him. Cancer? The heart? He didn't speak. I could feel fear mixed with resentment. Why was he pushing us away? I arrived at his house, but no one answered the door. The neighbor said he was taken to a hospice. A hospice? I didn't even know the name. The police contacted me after he died. Claire and I arrived at the funeral feeling like strangers among his colleagues and Linda's friends. At the wake, Linda came up to us. Her eyes were dry, and her makeup was perfect. Father made a will, she said, as if announcing the weather. It's all on me. House, money, retirement accounts. You are not mentioned there. Neither you nor your sister. I'm sorry, kids. This is the will of the deceased. I froze, feeling the floor go out from under my feet. Claire squeezed my hand, her fingers trembling. How is everything? I managed to say. Linda shrugged her shoulders. That's what he decided. I didn't interfere. Her smile was like a knife. I looked at her and saw not a widow, but a winner who took everything. We were standing in an empty hall, surrounded by strangers. The house where we grew up, where Mom sang us lullabies, was hers now. The money my father was saving was hers. Even his memory seemed to belong to her. I remembered how he taught me how to ride a bike, how he was silent at my mother's funeral, and how he said, a new chapter. He didn't cut us out in his will. He did it years ago when he chose Linda. We were not a family, but a hindrance. I looked at Claire, her tear-stained eyes, and felt rage mingle with emptiness. Linda thought she had won, but I wasn't going to give up. Her will of the deceased was too convenient, and I knew the truth was somewhere nearby. You just have to dig. Linda announced at her father's funeral that everything, the house, the money, the bills, had gone to her in her will, where Claire's sister and I were not mentioned. Her words, such as the will of the deceased, were like a blow, but I couldn't let it go. We hired a lawyer, and the will turned out to be a fake, drawn up a month before his death, without witnesses, in shaky handwriting. Linda isolated her father in the hospice, turned off the cameras, ordered strange medicines. A draft of a letter was found on his phone. Linda is doing something to me. I'm sorry, son. We handed over the evidence to the investigator, and the case turned fraud, forgery, pressure on the father. Linda played the victim on TV, but the court gave her 7 years. The house and money were returned to us, and in my father's chest of drawers they found his real will. To my children, everything that I earned. Justice did not bring my father back, but it brought back his memory. Karma, as it turned out, always keeps score. Anger came first. She was boiling like lava when Linda, standing at the wake, announced with dry eyes that her father had left everything to her. I looked at her manicured nails clutching the glass and wanted to scream. Claire, my sister, was holding my hand. Her fingers were icy cold. But the anger was quickly replaced by numbness, a feeling as if the world had stopped, and I was stuck in it like a fly in tar. Claire and I left the funeral in silence, as if we were strangers in the house where we grew up. She wanted to forget, to leave, to move on. Why fight? He crossed us out, she said, her voice trembling. But I couldn't. Not for the money, but for the truth. Linda stole more than just the house. She stole our father, his memory, our family. I wasn't going to give it to her. We hired a lawyer. His name was Mark. A balding man with tired eyes and a habit of grunting while looking at papers. I've laid it all out. How my father distanced himself after Linda appeared. How she erased Mom's tracks. How he stopped calling us, accusing us of negativity. He told me about the will, which we only found out about at the funeral. Mark requested a copy. When he received it, his eyebrows went up. This was written a month before his death, he said, pointing to the date. Without witnesses, without a notary. The handwriting looked like it was written by someone who could barely hold a pen. He leaned back in his chair. It's a fake. It smells like a crime. I felt my heart start to pound. A fake? So father didn't cross us out? We started digging like detectives in a cheap movie. Mark contacted the hospice and requested records. It turned out that a week before her death, Linda had not allowed anyone to see her father. The nurses complained. She forbade unnecessary visits, claiming that he needs peace. The doctors noted that the father was weak, but conscious until Linda began to manage his care. The neighbors I interviewed told me that Linda came to the house alone, took out the boxes, and turned off the security cameras. "We thought she was cleaning up," said an old man from a nearby yard. I clenched my fists. Is he getting out? She was covering her tracks. Claire, who didn't believe in fighting at first, joined in. "If it's true, I want to know," she said, and her eyes were burning. We checked the pharmacy records. Linda ordered medications that were not in her father's prescriptions, strong sedatives that were not prescribed by doctors. "It's not a concern," Mark said, shaking his head. "This is control." We requested access to my father's phone through the court. They found drafts of emails that he hadn't sent. One was addressed to me. "If you're reading this, it means I can't talk anymore. Linda is doing something to me. I do not know how to protect myself. I'm sorry, son." I was reading, and tears burned my eyes. "Excuse me? I should have apologized for not getting through to him, for not saving him." Claire hugged me, crying. He didn't want her. He wanted us. We handed everything over to the investigator. His name was Rojas, a man with a voice like gravel and a look that saw through people. He took the letter, the notes, the medicines, the testimony of the neighbors. "This is serious," he said. The investigation began. Autopsy, handwriting examination, interrogations. Linda found out that we were digging and went on the attack. She gave an interview on local TV, playing a martyred widow. "They want to take away my last one," she sobbed, fiddling with her handkerchief. "I loved him, but the children have long forgotten." Her tears were like soap dishes, but the cameras were working. I watched the broadcast, feeling the rage give way to coldness. She didn't just steal, she was building a trap for us. But the truth was stronger than her show. The examination confirmed that the signature in the will was a fake. The handwriting did not match his father's, even considering his illness. The sedatives in his blood exceeded the norm. He was barely conscious when he signed. Neighbors confirmed that Linda had been taking out things before his death, including documents. Rojas found her correspondence with a friend, where she wrote, "Soon everything will be mine. The old man won't last." I was reading this, and everything inside was shrinking. She's not just a fraud. She was a predator who saw her father as prey. Linda was charged with fraud, forgery of a will, pressure on an incapacitated person. The court was like a theater where she played the main role. She howled, threw herself at the journalists, shouted, "They're lying. I loved him." But the evidence was solid. The judge, a stern-faced woman, read out the sentence, 7 years in prison. The audience applauded, but I sat in silence. Claire squeezed my hand, her eyes wet. We didn't celebrate. The victory was bitter as ashes. Linda took not only the money, she took her father, his last days, his voice. The court returned everything to the estate, the house where we grew up, the money, the retirement accounts. Claire and I entered the house, and it smelled empty. Mom's photos had been taken away, but I found one in the basement. She was smiling, holding Claire and me. We cried, sitting on the floor, because justice will not bring my father back. But then we found his chest of drawers. In the drawer was a real will, signed 6 months before his death, with a notary, with a seal. It read, "To my children, everything that I have earned." To them, because it was their mother who helped me build it all. I reread this line, feeling my heart constrict. He wasn't perfect. He pushed us away, chose Linda, and fell silent. But in the end, he remembered who we were. I've been thinking about him, about his silence at his mother's funeral, about his new chapter, about his weakness in front of Linda. He was strict, cold, but he was our father. His letter, his will, it was his "I'm sorry" which we didn't hear during his lifetime. I forgave him, but I didn't forget. Claire hung Mom's picture in the living room, and we decided to keep the house. Not for the money, but for them, for Mom, for what Linda couldn't take away. Karma is not always loud. Sometimes she's a judge reading out a verdict, or a letter found on her phone. Linda thought she had one, but the world knows how to repay debts. Claire and I didn't get richer, but we became freer. Her father might have come back to us in the end, but not hers. I look at Mom's smile in the photo, and I know we didn't beat Linda. We have defeated her lies. And this victory is the only thing that keeps us afloat.